Trnt said, "Tell me, knight, upon your honor, how many men were lost in battle?" The knight answered, "Captain, it is known that of the men killed in battle, those who were drowned and those taken prisoner, we've lost 11,722 men." The emperor said, "Captain, I beg you to do whatever has to be done, out of reverence for God and love of me, so that you can leave in 15 or 20 days with all your men to help those miserable people." "Oh, sire," said Trant, "how can your majesty say that we won't have left what we won't have left in 20 days? In that time the enemy could attack the city, and they are so powerful they could invade it." Trant again asked the emissary how many men there might be in the enemy's forces. The emissary answered, "In faith, there are many Turks, and they are very skillful in warfare, and are cruel and ferocious men. In our opinion, according to what some prisoners say, they number more than 800,000. "My feeling," said Trant, "is that a royal proclamation should be read throughout the city. All those who've hired themselves out, and those who want to, should go to the imperial house to receive their payment, and they should all be ready to leave in 6 days." The emperor thought that was good advice, and he thanked Trant. As soon as the proclamation was read, all the grandees outside the city were notified, and they were all soon there with their horses rested. And those who had come from Sicily were ready. The bad news of the losses had been sustained ran through the city, and many of the townsfolk, both men and women, gathered in the market square. Some were crying for their brothers, others for their sons, some for their friends and relatives, and still others for the destruction of the empire. Most of the empire was lost, and the hope of the emperor and those around him was placed only in God. They were afraid that there would be great starvation and thirst because of the enemy's victory, and that the city would be burned, and they could imagine themselves in captivity and miserable slavery. 2 of the emperor's barons told the emperor that he should send his daughter Carmenisa to Hungary to be with her sisters. When Trant heard these words, his face turned pale as death. All the maidens and even the emperor noticed, and he asked Trant what had made his color change so much. "Sire," said Trant, "I've had a bad stomach ache all today." The emperor had his doctors come immediately to give him some medicine. When the emperor saw that Trant was all right, he turned to Carmenisa and said to her, "My daughter, what do you think of the things the council has said about you? In my opinion, it would be a good idea, because if the empire and all its people were lost, you would be safe." The discreet lady answered her father, saying, "O merciful father, your highness should not allow me to be separated from you. I prefer to die near your majesty and in my own land than to be wealthy and living a life of pain and sorrow in a foreign land." When the emperor heard such discreet and loving words from his daughter, he was very pleased. On the morning of the following day, the banners were blessed with a great procession and celebration. All the men armed themselves and mounted their horses to depart. When the emperor saw all the men outside, he called the captain from his window and told him not to leave. He wanted to talk to him. He had some letters for him to give to the Duke of Macedonia and a few others. As soon as the foot soldiers and those on horseback were outside the city, Trant returned and went upstairs to the emperor's chambers. He found him in his chamber with the secretary writing, and did not want to disturb him. When the princess saw Trant, she called to him and said, "Captain, I see that you are ready to leave. I pray that God will give you an honorable victory." Trant knelt before her and thanked her for her words, and he kissed her hand as a token of good luck. Then the princess said, "Is there anything you would like from me, Trant, before you leave? Tell me if there is, for I wish to grant whatever you may wish." "My lady," said Trant, "I would only like your highness to do me the favor of giving me this blouse you are wearing, because it is the closest to your precious skin, and I would like to take it off with my own hands." "Oh, Holy Mary, protect me," said the princess. "What are you telling me? I'd be very happy to give you my blouse, my jewels, my clothes, and everything I have, but it would not be right for your hands to touch me where no one else has ever touched." She quickly went into her room and took off the blouse and put on another. She went out to the great hall, where she found Trant joking with the maidens. She took him aside and gave him the blouse, kissing it many times to make him more content. Trant took it very happily and went to his lodgings, and he told the maidens, "If the emperor calls me, tell him I'll be right back, that I've gone to arm myself so that I can leave quickly." When Trant was at his lodgings, he finished arming himself, and he found Deiphobus and Richard there. They had come back to put on the coats of arms that had been made of metal plates. Then the three knights went to take their leave of the emperor and all the ladies. When they went upstairs, they found the emperor waiting for the captain to come, because he wanted to dine with him. When the emperor saw Trant, he said, "Captain, what coat of arms is that you're wearing?" "My lord," said Trant, "if you knew what was in it, you would be astonished." "I would very much like to know about it," said the emperor. "Its force," said Trant, "is to do well. When I left my land, a maiden gave it to me, and she is the most beautiful maiden in the world. I'm not speaking in offense of the princess here, or of any other of the ladies of honor." The emperor said, "Is it true that no good feat of arms was ever accomplished unless it was for love?" "I promise you," said Trant, "on my word as a knight, that in my first battle I will make friends and enemies marvel at it." The emperor sat down to eat, as did the empress and her daughter, and the captain sat beside her, and he had the two knights sit at another table with all the ladies and the maidens. Then they all ate with great pleasure, and especially Trant, who shared a plate with his lady.